I paid for Qatar Airways first class to Oman. I did not fly Qatar Airways first class. Instead, I got Oman Air's first class cabin. Officially, this cabin doesn't exist. They retired first class service, rebranded it to Business Studio, and left the same seat on board. So, did I get an upgrade or a subtle scam? Let's find out. We're flying into the Middle East, with everything going on in the region right now. We'll talk about what it's actually like on the ground. Back in January, I booked a trip to Oman, somewhere I've been wanting to revisit, and a chance to fly Qatar Airways A380 first class one last time before they retired the aircraft. The plan was a hop via Doha, a long stretch in the legendary Al Safwa first class lounge, and then onward to Muscat. Perfect. Then Iran was attacked, and the situation across the Middle East made airlines cancel many flights or reshuffle their metal. Qatar Airways pulled their 380s off Heathrow. This left me with a choice: accept a downgrade on the same routing, or rebook. I chose to rebook, and that rebooking landed me here, Oman Air, direct to Muscat, in what is technically their top cabin. I arrived 3.5 hours before our evening departure to find something I did not expect: the premium check-in lanes busier than economy. Most of the business studio passengers, it turned out, weren't even flying business suites. Some were in standard business class. The branding confusion starts early. After about 5 minutes waiting, a ground crew member approached me directly, confirmed I was in business suites, took my ID and checked me in on the spot. I thought, alright, maybe there is still some genuine service differentiation here. We'll come back to it. Fast track was unusually quiet, and then, straight to the lounge. Oman does not have its own lounge in Heathrow. It used to use Gulf Air Lounge, but now invites premium passengers to the Qatar Premium Lounge, a step up, but it's not a first class lounge. I last visited this Qatar lounge in 2022. Walking back in now, it looks almost identical to when I first came here in 2018. 8 years later, the design is proving to be timeless, though I imagine it could do with a refresh. The entrance still feels more like a spa than an airport. Fresh orchids, warm lighting, the deliberate hush of a space that knows what it's doing. Past the welcome area, the lounge opens into 2 main seating zones. Then there is a row of paired window seats, a dining area, and the martini bar. This is not huge, but it packs a punch. Qatar lounges consistently deliver on food, and this was no exception. A good mix of hot dishes and cold bites made for a good lunch spread. Then a formal sit-down restaurant with an a la carte menu. No paper menus anymore. QR codes on the table. Slightly less charming, perfectly functional. The menu feels pared back compared to a few years ago. If you've used this lounge in the last few years, you'd notice. I ordered a mushroom soup to start. Genuinely delicious, though so hot it burnt my tongue on the first scoop. And then I ordered the steak, a little too well done, but proper food. Here's where things went slightly off. Just one other diner in the room, at least 3 waiters and 2 chefs audible somewhere in the background. And yet, after my order was placed, they all just disappeared. I could hear them chatting, I could not see them. That is not the Qatar service standard I'm used to. The martini bar, however, was a completely different story. It was just me here around 5 PM, and the waiter was exceptional. Already thinking about my next drink before I'd finished the one in my hand. That's the standard. By 6:30 PM, I could see our 787-9 already parked at the gate from the lounge window. And here's the situation with Oman Air. There are only 2 Oman Air aircraft that carry this business studio product, just 2, which tells you a lot about why the airline eventually decided it couldn't justify the economics of a true first-class service. Even past 7 PM, the lounge barely filled to a third. Qatar has several evening departures from T4. It felt unusually quiet for what it is. Time to head for the gate. Boarding was more or less on time, and the short walk to the gate gave me a few minutes for plane spotting. First, a Malaysia Airlines A350. Another airline that used to offer a boutique first-class product quietly folded it into a business plus tier. And then, a beautiful Japan Airlines 350, an airline that went the other way, doubling down on first class rather than retreating. I'll be flying that soon. I won't pretend there wasn't a low-level awareness in the back of my mind heading to this gate. The Middle East situation has been fluid, and anyone telling you they don't clock that before a trip like this isn't being fully honest. but once you're on the aircraft, you're on. And Oman, as you'll find out, is a very different story. No first class escort this time. I made my own way through the forward business class cabin, a solid Apex Suites product which I've reviewed on the site, and into the suites cabin at the front. And the cabin still looks gorgeous. There is an unmistakably Omani design language in here. Warm tones, considered detailing. It feels like somewhere specific, not a generic premium product. Just one other passenger in the entire cabin, Suite 1A. Let me be direct. If Oman Air had kept calling this first class, it would be a competitive product. The suite is spacious, modern, and not far removed from what you'd find in the likes of Swiss Sense's first class, which I reviewed recently. The hard product is not the problem, it never was. One thing to flag immediately, there are no overhead bins in this cabin at all, zero. The crew take your carry-on and store it elsewhere. On a previous Oman Air first class flight, that happened seamlessly because I was escorted and my bag whisked away. This time, not so much. There is no way to store a full-size carry-on in the suite itself. Personally, I hate not having my gear right above or near me. Let me know in the comments, is a lack of overhead storage a deal breaker for you, or a more spacious suite mitigates that? Welcome drinks, sadly no more crystal champagne, and a cold refreshing towel was offered. Suite controls are intuitive, storage is genuinely ample and tucked into the console. Then a chilled minibar, stocked with sodas, still water, sparkling water. It is more useful than it might seem, which I'll come back to. The ottoman doubles as a buddy seat with all the bedding stored underneath. Even if empty, a full suitcase simply won't fit in there. You'll find a full-length coat cupboard that was also designed with intention. The IFE screen might be the only area this suite shows its age. The bezel is enormous, and the display could be significantly larger without it.
في الوقت الحالي يرجع منكم من الجلوس والرسول engines in unison now, and this flight is going to take us around 7 hours and 10 minutes, cruising at a final altitude of 39,000 feet. In the meantime, please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
We pushed back right on time. Then surprisingly, Arabic coffee and dates arrived while we were already taxiing. It felt like service had started in the business cabin and reached ours as an afterthought. Slightly unusual flow. One of the real pleasures of flying out of Heathrow is what you see on the way out. This airport really is Avgeek paradise. About 25 minutes after takeoff, the crew came round for drinks and meal orders. Looking after me today was Suleiman. Oman Air runs a proper dine-on-demand concept up here. No set meal time, you eat when you're ready. I asked for dinner about an hour after takeoff. I want to spend a moment on the menu, because I could have easily ordered everything on it. Crispy duck, pistachio-crusted lamb rack, it was all enticing. Yet, I note, it's visibly pared back compared to when I last flew Oman Air 3 years ago, when there were 4 starters, 4 mains, a proper cheese plate, a leather-bound menu to boot. All of that gone. The menu is undeniably good, but the reduction in choice is unexpected for a premium carrier. A small moment of confusion. Suleiman appeared with wine bottles after taking meal order. I'd requested red with the meal, not before it, but I just went with it. The crew also unlocked the suite doors so I could enjoy the full privacy. From takeoff, the cabin was dimmed for the entire flight, which, and I say this gently, does not do the cabin justice on camera. But in person, with the suite closed, it felt every bit like a bougie first class. There are 2 lavatories for this cabin, with the middle one being a larger size dedicated facility, complete with a bidet and Amouage amenities. Amouage is a premium fragrance house from Oman itself, a considered touch paired with the amenity kit contents provided. About 45 minutes after the takeoff wine, Suleiman came by to check I was ready, and only then did he begin setting the table. Small thing, but that's dine-on-demand done properly, no tray or dish arriving uninvited. Sherbet Haries to start, a slow-cooked Omani soup. Comforting, warming, if a little plain. The smoked kingfish surprised me, dense and meaty. If you hadn't told me it was fish, I might have guessed otherwise. Good, although the chickpea salad listed on the menu was conspicuously absent. A small oversight, but you notice these things. The Omani kalia for the main was the highlight of the meal. Fragrant, rich lamb that had been treated with real care. An easy 9 out of 10, genuinely excellent. Then baked kunafa to finish, with mint tea, a proper close. And here's a tip. If you're flying out of Oman, absolutely opt for the Omani dishes. Flying from London to Muscat, the Western options are probably the smarter call. The kitchen cooks best with home ingredients. After my film finished, it was time for bed. I asked for pyjamas, and they were delivered. These same ones I remember from my 2023 first-class flight. Full-length top and trousers. Decent quality. Comfortable without being extraordinary. It's more British Airways quality than Emirates or Etihad. While I changed, Suleiman made up the bed in 2G, the luxury of having multiple suites free. Whatever label is on the door of this cabin, there is no question this is prime aviation real estate. A proper bed. The mattress pad isn't especially thick, but the seat itself is deeply padded. Together, they create a remarkably comfortable, spacious sleeping surface. I closed the suite doors. The cabin was dark, quiet, and felt like you could be in a private plane. For 3.5 hours, I slept soundly.
Down. We'd like to mind you smoking not allowed interior smoking areas for the building. Thank you.
I woke to the cockpit announcing our descent. Still 45 minutes from landing. When I moved over to my window suite and was a little thirsty, here's where that minibar earned its place. The crew seemed already preoccupied with landing preparations, but right there in my console, still water, sparkling water, a choice, done. No fuss, no waiting. That sounds like a small thing, and it is, but it's also the kind of detail that sets apart a first-class suite. The views on descent over Oman are quietly extraordinary. Jagged ridgelines, rust-coloured valleys, a landscape that doesn't make any noise about itself. It just sits there, impressive, ancient, unhurried. Here's the paradox I keep thinking about. Oman might be the Switzerland of the Middle East, neutral, politically stable, one of the most welcoming countries I've visited anywhere in the world, and yet it sits just miles from the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical choke points on the planet for global energy and shipping. Tensions elsewhere in the region have been real and serious. From inside Oman, you would not know it. One observation before we land on a verdict. At no point in the flight was I proactively asked if I'd like breakfast. Not before sleep, not on descent, not at any point. There was still plenty of time. We were 45 minutes out when I woke. Being frank, I did not actually want breakfast. It was still only 5 AM UK time. But my point is, British Airways first class crew, for all their other inconsistencies, would offer a quick fix without being asked. So, what is Oman Air Business Studios? Remember that moment at check-in when a crew member pulled me aside, fast-tracked my check-in, and I thought, maybe this cabin still gets treated differently. Maybe there's still something first class about the way it's run. Here's the answer, 3,500 miles later. It's a business class product with a better seat. That's it. The suite is excellent. Besides the carry-on issue, the hard product is competitive with almost anything in first class today. But the service wrapped around it, the proactive care, the depth of menu, the attentiveness, and that standard business, maybe slightly below, compared to where Oman Air was even a couple of years ago. I've held Oman Air in genuinely high regard for a long time. Their business service used to be something special, and slowly, quietly, it's been wound down to something less so, but it's still very good overall. I didn't pay for this flight directly, rebooked from Qatar as you know, but I looked up the fares. Cheapest return London to Muscat in business studio was £3,131. Cheapest standard business class return around £2,294. Nearly £1,000 difference for the same lounge access from Heathrow, the same food, the same service, a bigger seat. Is this business studio product worth it? My verdict would actually be a firm no, but if the extra space and privacy matters most to you, and I understand why it might, especially on an overnight, then fine. But you are paying for one thing and one thing only. Everything else is identical. I'd love to know what you think. Drop it in the comments. There's a pattern running through aviation right now that I keep noticing. An airline builds something exceptional, earns a reputation, and then slowly begins to wind it back. Shorter menus, thinner service. So Oman Air is not unique in this. The country though, still exceptional. Oman doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, it just is. Calm, beautiful, and quietly one of the most underrated destinations in Middle East. In the next video, we're testing Oman Air's regional business class and their flagship Muscat lounge to see if the cost-cutting hits the regional flights just as hard. If you want to know which premium flights are actually worth your money and which ones are quietly watering down their service, hit subscribe. I'm FaZe, this is Million Miles Up, and I'll see you in the next one.